I'm back. Welcome to the Coach Steve Show. It's been a hot minute since doing a podcast. It's been at least a month, I would think, something like that. It's going to be a short episode. It's just going to be why there was no episode for any of the small, loyal fandom that the show does have. It's going to give you an update of what's happening this weekend on the show. I've been putting it out on social medias and checking that out, and then kind of talking about something that I don't think I've talked about on here, and it's about, faith, God, Jesus, the church, that type of stuff. Tweeted it out. Coaches were kind enough to provide some information there, and why I've kind of been going down this path. So if you're in the live chat and you hear something about it, chime in. If you watch the video later on, still chime into the chat there. So this is a Coach Steve show, and this is a show where I come on and talk about football, schemes, leadership, culture, everything like that. I've talked to tons and tons of high school football coaches, college coaches, all the way from NAIA, JUCO, Division III, Division II, 1AA, FBS, Power 5, everything else. And I've been very blessed to do that. Then there's a segment on here called Bear Down with Zach Kyleman, where either I'm on talking about the Bears, I'm wearing Bears today, or he comes on and we discuss things with the Bears. Tomorrow night at 4:30 p.m. Central, Zach's going to come back on, and we're going to discuss the Ben Johnson finalizing his coaching staff, talk about some free agent moves, maybe a little bit of the draft. We're going to discuss those things. So the podcast is back. Why it's been gone? Well, in the new house, this is in our basement. This is like the studio. I'm only using not even half the basement, just a little corner. Well, the stairs, they were just wood. Okay, now it was good wood, but the walls and stuff, there's 2 levels. You go down about 5 steps, turn 5 steps, you're in the basement. The walls had markings on them from the previous owners. They had a tractor tire in here that they used to work out in. They moved it on out. They had markings everywhere, so we had to get it all sanded down, prime, paint, and then the stairs wanted to get primed and painted. And then because of how cold it's been in Illinois, it's been 0 degrees. With the wind, it's been negative 20, 25. It just wasn't drying right, so it took a while. I am very anxiety-ridden, and I'm like, if it's not really dry, I don't want to walk on it. From the sanding, there was dust everywhere, so I think there's still dust on some of the stuff behind me that I've got to clean off. And then basketball season started to get real busy, so the podcast thing wasn't in the cards. I didn't miss it. So I knew by the time the stairs were going to get done that I could hop on here and talk, and then I got an announcement for this weekend on the podcast. So this is just kind of an update for the small fandom that I have. I do miss this. That's why Zach, I immediately got a hold of him and I said, hey, stairs are good. This week I'm good. Let's talk about the Bears. Let's talk about whatever. I need to podcast. We need to get this out. So we're going to hop on tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. Central Time to discuss the whole coaching staff. It's a big coaching staff for the Bears. If there's some free agents that they're going to be able to get. And then we'll update. We might do our own mock draft, like a live stream, and people can hop on and, we'll draft. People can comment. Like there's things coming down there. This weekend, March 1st and March 2nd, Saturday and Sunday, I am hosting my first ever Coach Steve Show online clinic. I have some football coaches coming on to discuss different topics that they want to discuss. We have some offensive stuff. We have some defensive stuff, strength and conditioning, program building. There's different ones. I have a few extra time slots open, not very many. I think I have one for Saturday and a couple for Sunday. They're only going to go 30 to 45 minutes. So let's say one's at 9 a.m. It'll go to 9:30, 9:45. Then I might have another one at 10. It just gives me time to hop on. Each one will be live streamed. There'll be different links. It'll be live streamed, and the videos will stay there. Never done it before. Wanted to do it. Coaches were gracious enough to agree to it. So that's happening this weekend. So if you have any interest in learning some things, I've had a couple of the guys presenting on this podcast before. They're great guys, and they're going to present just to give out some information. I do have some extra time slots open, so any football coaches, if you're interested in presenting, you need to let me know by Wednesday, Thursday, because I want to put out a graphic schedule for people exactly what time they're happening, because I haven't done that yet. I've been too nice trying to get coaches time to sign up to make sure their schedules align. I know for some of the Illinois guys, there's the Glazier Clinic going on in Chicago this weekend. This is like the only weekend I was going to have to do something like this until the summer, because I coach softball and now everything will get taken by softball. During my spring break, I can maybe try again, but it's just the only one that I knew for 100% certain. So that's what's kind of going on with the podcast. It is going to come back. Looking for different guests and everything else still. We're going to get into that. Starting softball gets a little crazy, but I am going to try to get that going as well. So that's been kind of why the podcast hasn't been back yet. So I am back. It's going to start ramping up. I need to put my foot down and try to ramp this up. So if people want to help me out and figure out how to get this to grow bigger, content, everything else, where can I go? How can I do this? Please let me know, because it's got to boom. So that's why I titled this. I titled this as I Am Back. It's like my Michael Jordan. I'm back. Awesome. And I missed talking on here, ranting. But let's talk about the second part. It says rediscovering my faith. And so let's start from the beginning and kind of how this led to this. I remember growing up. I grew up in a very small town. You could call it a town, you call it a village. 500 people, Now, in that town of 500 people, we did have a church, and it was maybe 2-minute walk from my house. It's 2-3 minutes, if that. And as a child, I remember kind of going with my parents. We didn't go all the time, went sometimes. I'm not afraid to admit this. I was in the Boy Scouts. You can make fun of me in the chats. I was. Part of it was going to church, and that was kind of a part of it. I know that my father wanted me to do it. Kind of went, and then I kind of didn't in middle school. And then in high school, I had two of my friends across the street, another friend right by there. They would go with their parents, and sometimes I'd wait for them to get done for church, then we hang out. And then I thought about it, and I said, well, what if I just go? Use it to hang out, and then we can hang out after as well, and just kind of go. And I've gone to church before and everything else. So it became where pretty much, I don't want to say 100%. I'm not going to lie and say 100%. This was so long ago. I would say 80%, 70% of the year I was there on a Sunday. And then we got the town, and the town over where we went to grade school and high school, there was a church there as well. And let's see. The Bears cause all of us to lose our faith. Yes. Coach Vaughn. Coach Vaughn will be presenting at the clinic if you guys are interested. Last time I talked to him, it was Wing Raid. So interested in that. Yes, the Bears cause a lot of us to lose our faith and everything. Hopefully they're moving in the right direction here. They're spending some money. Their coaching staff is huge. It's huge, but that's what they need. Ben Ellison, welcome back. Thanks. Glad to be back. I missed, this podcast doesn't pay the bills, but I do miss it. But so the pastor lived in the town that I lived in, but the pastor would preach at 3 churches, and ours was always the last one because that's where they live. And at the town over, where there was another big church, they hired like an assistant pastor that could preach to help take some of the pressure off the pastor. And then he would also run like the youth stuff. And the youth stuff could be little kids, could be high school. And I remember friends and everything wanted to do youth group. And I decided to, and I went, and we would play games, we would talk, we would do this. There was a music festival, I believe in Kentucky. I think it was called Ichthus. We went there, like those type of stuff, right? And then, I did not get confirmation. Now, it was a Methodist church. And I don't know if that matters. Methodist. just recently looking up what that means is it's basically Christianity, but there's small differences. I can't really tell the differences, and I'll get to what this is all coming to in a minute. Just giving some background, hopefully people can relate to it. So it was a Methodist church, Methodist churches. Um, so I didn't have like confirmation or baptism as a baby. Didn't happen. Going through the youth group stuff, I got it at 15, 16 years old. I believe I was 16. So a part of me was like embarrassed that it happened at 16, but looking back, there was no reason to be embarrassed. My parents didn't do it as a baby. I don't know if they didn't do the church thing at the time. They didn't want to force it. I don't really know, but I went through it all. I did the studies, got baptized. Things were looking that way. But I was also playing sports. I played football, basketball, baseball, and I stopped playing baseball and did track. So I was doing 3 to 4 sports. Growing up, I did basketball, baseball, did football when I got into high school. Always doing that stuff, took a lot of time. So I bring this up because I remember at the time, a couple of the buddies I went to church with played football. So they knew, right? But it was almost like, I don't want to use the word embarrassing, but it was like you get made fun of. If I went to school and they're like, "What'd you do this weekend?" Oh, well, Saturday, I got, we had a game Friday night. Saturday, we had film, um, mowed the grass, went over to friend's house, and then Sunday went to church. And I feel like it was always the feeling that you would get made fun of. Like, you went to church. That's such a childish thing. That's whatever. So I kind of kept that to myself. Like, I'd never go to school and really talk about church. What you would talk about the friends you went with, but like even they like really wouldn't talk about it. I feel like from remembering. So it was kind of always that weird thing. Even going to youth group, like I wouldn't really say anything to people like, "Oh yeah, even though there was people there that we went to high school together. Like that was the weird part looking back. So it was always this not cool thing, right? Like you're the jock, you're the sports guy. That's it's not the cool thing to do. Um, and then kind of the, oh, you believe in that stuff, and it goes back to it's a fairy tale, it's everything else. But I deep down, I firmly believed and still do that this part's never gone away. I still believe that there was an almighty God that created the heavens and the earth. There was nothing that could really shake me from that. I did believe that he sent his one and only son, Jesus Christ, down, um, spread the good word, did good things, hung on the cross, and resurrected in 3 days. That stuff I never stopped believing in that. And what I'm getting at is then I go off to college, right? So my first year in college, I didn't go to church when I was living there because my mind was, why would I go to a different church? I don't know people here. Why would I? I thought all the churches were dead. Like it just didn't do it. Now, once in a while when I would visit home my first year, I would go. Like if I visited for a weekend, I'd get up and go because I still had some friends that were like a year younger than me that still went. So I would go and see them. It was nice to kind of see some of the older adults in the community say, "Oh, Steve, how's college? How's it going?" And so you would, that part was nice. And then after a couple of times of that, my first year, I just stopped, right? Just completely stopped. And I don't think I had ever gone back from that moment on. So you're talking 19 years old, and I'm now 34. I don't know if I've really gone back to church. I've been to churches for weddings and stuff, but not really like go back to church, right? So I'm now 34. So during this whole time, never once did I say God isn't real. Did I start to question like everything that the story tells you? Never once did I sit there and say like this never happened. They don't never existed. This doesn't exist. I don't see that. So that never was the problem. I think just in my mind it was, is this the cool thing to do? What do people think of you when you go? My parents aren't going. They believe that stuff too, but same thing. They don't go. Nobody I was around was going. You're in college. You're going to do college things. There was also some low moments in my life where you would think that maybe I would turn back to going there, but I would turn to do something else. I always believed in just being a good person to the best I could. I'd rather go hang out with friends. I'd rather do this. It was never a thought to go. I kind of stopped living at home, lived in where I went to school. Never a thought to go to a different church. I'm not going to try that. I don't even know. Why would I go be around new people? Never once thought that. But then I would say around 23, 24, maybe a little bit younger, maybe 22. A buddy started somehow the conversation of people was the Bible, and they brought up that stuff, and I finally stepped in, and they were telling me how could this be real? How could somebody get swallowed by a whale and then resurrect out of that? How could somebody die and 3 days later come back? How can they actually heal? This sounds like a movie. This sounds like a fairy tale. This is just a book. And I had to step in and tell them how I think it's not just like a history text. It's like a history textbook. Like, this is what it is. It's not Harry Potter. It's not Lord of the Rings. To me, it was this. And they said, well, how do you know? And I said, think about this. How many years ago was this? You think they were that creative? You think they had we have that type of imagination because we've seen movies, we've seen TV shows, we've seen drawings. So our imagination can reflect it to that. Like when you talk about aliens, like we've seen movies, how many different types of movies and TV shows have we had where aliens look different and also the same? The reason why we associate that is because somebody created that, and that's what we think. So do you think they were that creative thousands of years ago? I doubt it. From that imagination standpoint, they were good at building things. They were good at work, that stuff. But like when it comes down to like the arts, right? I don't think so. So I always get in those type of conversations, and it happened more often than I mean, not a lot, but it happened enough times to make me think about, when I was like 23, 24, like, maybe I do go back to church. And there were times my parents had bought me a Bible. And I kind of left it at home. I remember one time coming home and I took it with me. I don't know why. I just did. And I've always had it ever since. Once in a great while, I'll just read like 3 pages. And I know that's not a lot. It was just once in a while I'd open it and be like, I wonder what more stories are in here, because you'd like to think you knew everything, right? From the studies I did at 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, different talks you had, and you think you know. So you're looking at it and realize you kind of don't. It's kind of hard to understand for me. So it was just weird. Like maybe once a year I'd pop it open, but I never, again, made that push to go back because the people I surrounded myself with, not saying they were like the couple might have been bad people. And I think we all do that from time to time, but there was a lot of good people around me. But I was also super focused on coaching football, coaching basketball. That's what I did. And it's crazy because in sports, especially now, you're starting to see more and more come out about God and Jesus and everything else from the sports world. But even then, like I know people gave Tim Tebow a hard time for going on praying. So it was like this attack on Christianity. And, people, you see it on like certain shows. I even watched like how religion's bad. Look at all the wars that had started. And so all this stuff. And so it just never was that reason to go. I just thought, okay, I'm baptized. I believe in Jesus. I believe there was a God. And that's probably good enough, right? Like, I'm still going to live a certain way. I never thought anything of it. I just thought, well, I'm not stealing. I'm not killing. I'm not, doing this. I'm not doing this. Trying to be a good person the best I can, and with some mistakes along the way, of course. And then a couple years ago, a conversation had to be had of like going back to church, but then just never put the foot down. And then it kind of happened. This kind of happened within the last 2 years. I think it was 2 years ago. Randomly on TikTok or something, you're scrolling. And I would see this guy named Cliff. I'm going to screw up his name, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Cliff K. Connect, I think is how you say it. Debating with college kids on campuses. and they are asking him questions, and the way he explains it just resonated. I remember seeing this like 2 years ago, and somehow I don't know how it pops up, but it popped up. So with over the last 2 years, not all the time, maybe it's just once in a great while that would pop up. Some other church Bible video pops up. And every time it did, it always got me thinking. So once in a while, I'll go grab the Bible. I'm like, I'm going to read it, and I'm holding it, and then I never do. But it's like, it's there. Like, I'm at the doorstep. I'm maybe not even at the doorstep. I'm like, maybe in the driveway. Like I'm right there. Um, and again, I think about the people I'm around. Not a lot's talked about. Sometimes we say things like in coaching, like do it the God given ability. Sometimes we'll say God put us here for a reason, but that's as far as the extent it goes. So I'm not really surrounded again by, at least publicly, they might on their own, and I don't know, of like the church and reading the Bible and studying and the devotion that you're going to have. So that's been happening for 2 years, like really struggling internally. I don't even know if it's a struggle, but like thinking it to myself, not telling anybody else, literally nobody else, about wanting to go back, reading it, wanting to understand it. Um, then a weird thing happened. Then did my last episode on here. I can't remember if it was by myself or with Zach Kyleman that does the Bear Down. Podcast is taken away a little bit. The stairs getting worked on. Basketball's in full swing, and I'm continuing to think about it. And more of these Cliff episodes come up. So I said, let me just look more into what Cliff does. He has a show called, Give Me the Answer. He and his son Stuart go around and talk to kids on college campuses, and I'm listening to the answers that he's giving. And then it kind of leads me to other people that are in the media world and that world, and I'm listening to them. I'm trying to find episodes of people talking about faith, like, Patrick David, if you know who that is, talk about it. Wes Huff, discovered him. He was on Joe Rogan a few months ago. Found their content. Apologist Canadian. They're in Canada. So I'm starting to listen to some of this. Wes Huff talks about scripture and stuff that goes beyond that, the Bible and everything. So I'm listening to all this stuff. A few months ago, I bought a Bible that like will read it, and at the bottom like takes the verses, like it could be, verse 5 through 15, and it just summarize it to help you explain it a little better. And I was like, well, that's what I need, and again, times I grab it, even while this podcast has been gone, wanting to read it. And I don't know, just something has clicked. And now we had moved to a new town. I'm researching churches, and I'm a person that is very procrastinative. So even to go to church, if I don't find one, put my foot down and go, I'm not going to do it, right? So I'm looking at, I emailed the church. Somebody's emailed me back. I've started reading the Bible. I put out there, like, I want to get back to it. I want to figure out a way I just want to be a better person. There's things in my life I'm very happy about, but sometimes with yourself, I feel like you want to be a better person. You want to talk better. You want to treat people better. And I know some people are saying, just be a good person, then just do it, right? You don't need, religion and faith. But now I'm listening to people and how they've given their life to Christ and they live everything. And now I'm like, have I been living wrong? Because I thought I'm baptized. I believe in this stuff. I have given that, but do I live it? Do I do things? I thought, oh, I'm coaching. I'm trying to help the youth be better. Is that my way of doing this? So just a lot of questions that I probably won't get the answers to. But again, then I thought, well, football coaches don't do this, right? Like football coaches don't talk this way and do this. But then when I put it out on X, I had some DM me and say, no, like this is like we talk like this, we live like this. There's coaches that have reached out saying we have Bible study with our players. We've had Bible study with other coaches. I've had coaches say, I'll hop on a Zoom with you for 20 minutes and do something to explain things. We can do it whenever you want, as often as you want, which is awesome. So now it just shows that a lot more people are doing that. I talked to my mother about some of this, and she was like, "There's nothing wrong with this. You're getting older. This seems to happen to people that get a little bit older." Um, a person, the George Janko show, he was with Impulsive with Aaron Paul, and I listened to him talk, and that's a lot of the episodes I'm listening to, and I just wish I could connect with like the Georges and the Cliffs and Stewarts. I don't know how. Maybe one day, just to talk to them. But that's kind of where it's like rediscovering it, right? I never was a denier, an atheist, or anything like that. Um, but it's one of those things where it's like I want to refind it, I guess. Refining is not a word I found out. I thought it was, just shows how dumb I am, but it's rediscovering it, right? So I try to read it. Um, there's some days I don't. Yesterday, I think I read, I think it would be 3 chapters. Is it 3 chapters? Yeah. And then it's like, well, do I just read it from the very first page? So I started right in the New Testament. God created the heavens and the earth, and then created man in His image, and told Adam and Eve to not eat the fruit, and they ate the fruit, and this is the original sin. And but then I had some people say, no, read the New Testament, read about Jesus Christ, then you can then read this, then read this. But then I'm reading the New Testament, and I'm only on I think it's Matthew. Um, they're talking about the Old Testament. They're like, well, I didn't read this. I don't know what this is. So should I have read it as an order? I'm an order person, right? I know how Star Wars started the opposite, but it still made sense. You're reading this like they're relating this to the Old Testament. And then I'm watching these people on here and they can just recite verses. And I'm like, well, how can you do that? Like, I read some yesterday and I remember some of it, but I can't tell you exactly where, right? And so how to study it. I don't know how to study it. Um, Living in a community now, future children. I feel like church would be great for future children and stuff like that. So it's like, get started now, get back into it. It's a lot of questions that I don't have answers to. Apparently, football coaches do live this way and they talk this way and they do this. And so it's just a lot of things. So it was just taking that time before podcast startup to rediscover it, I should say. So that's just kind of where I'm at with the whole faith thing. Long walk to a short drink of water there, but uh, just telling people that if they're in the same boat, let's have a conversation. I am gonna, when I get time, I'm gonna reach out to some coaches, and it's either I doubt it'd be a podcast. If they want it to be a podcast, cool. I think it'd be a cool football thing. Football coaches talking about their faith and talking about this open space. Nothing wrong there to talk. Just that's why I titled it this way. Rediscovering it, and that's just kind of what it is. I know this wasn't a football talk or a sports talk um, at all, and I apologize for that. But to me, this was important, and that's what I say. The whole point of a podcast is to say this. So if anybody out there is in the same boat, just know that we can find our way back, and I'm doing it slowly. Right, I'm doing it slowly. I still haven't put my foot down and walked into a church. I don't read the Bible every single day. I feel, and then I also feel like I'm not doing it right. Like these people are like studying it, and I'm like, what do you mean studying it? How do I study it? Do I need to take notes? What if this Bible verse sticks with somebody else, but this one doesn't stick with me? I have the app that gives you the daily verse, and it's good. It has an online Bible, so sometimes I skim through the Old Testament. And then at home, I'll read a couple before bed of like the New Testament. And I don't know if that's good. How do you study it? And then I feel dumb because how can these people remember the verses? And I'm listening to these people on this podcast, and on these podcasts, and they remember them. And I'm like, well, I'm not remembering it like that. So you feel very dumb, and it's very discouraging. And then you want to take a step back and say, I would never call God or Jesus dumb, but you're just feeling like, is this decision not the right decision because it's not going the right way? But ultimately, I'm just looking to get back into it. And the moment I did that, though, I will say the moment I'm like pushing myself to do this, s- you feel something for real and you feel a little bit better. Um, that to put my faith in something bigger than us. And I know it's hard because, like in coaching, we say we don't want to control everything, whether that means you're a head coach and you got to delegate, you don't want to control everything, whether you're an offensive coordinator and you allow your quarterback or players to kind of that to not control it. But ultimately, as coaches, there's things we want to control, right? And I think so. As a regular human being, we don't want to give control up. And if you're a coach too, it is hard. I think even more to here you go. Like we got to control some things. We control practice. We control the play calls. We control this. Sometimes the players' opinions don't matter. Like those type of things, and just we don't let it go. Right? We this control, and I think that's maybe where I'm fighting it a little bit. Is it this embarrassing thing? And then you're figuring out that like anxiety and this, and this means you don't believe that there's a God, you don't believe there's a Jesus. And then I start to think, what is wrong with me? Because in my mind, I do believe that. I feel like signs point to that because things just don't make sense. So there has to be something. This book, I cannot just be made up. These things I believe happened. And then but if you're acting this way or feeling this way, you don't really believe. And so just try to rediscover this. I'm trying to figure it out. If people want to help me out, that'd be fantastic. But that's just kind of where this is at. So that's kind of this episode getting back into the swing of podcasting. You take some time off, and I forgot how to set this up. I plug it in, I'm messing around with it. It was kind of funny. I had to clean things off, make sure it's good, and even trying to schedule the episode. I'm like, oh my gosh, creating a graphic, like you're just like, oh my gosh, like I forgot to do this. So podcast is back. Again, it's not going to be every day. I do coach 3 sports: football, basketball, softball. Softball starts next week. So when that happens, it's going to be all over the place. Sports really aren't happening right now either. But again, this weekend, online clinic, Saturday and Sunday, bunch of different time slots. Wednesday or Thursday, hopefully Wednesday, I'm going to put up a graphic of all the times and who's speaking and kind of what they're speaking on. All episodes, as long as we can do it on here, is going to be live. If I can't make it to where it's on here and live and it's on a Zoom, what I would do is then kind of share the link and people can hop on. But regardless, it would be on YouTube no matter what. But the plan is to be live. Each presenter is going to be its own individual episode. This isn't going to be like a 8-hour long thing. It's going to be all there, and you guys can ask questions in the chat. That's not going to be an issue. The videos will be up forever. You can watch them there. It'll be on live on YouTube. It'll be live on X as well, and Rumble. So those are the 3 spots that it would be live on. I'm excited to try it, and if it goes well, I'll try again during my spring break maybe, or in the summer, and see what else I can get going. But that's what's happening. Tomorrow, 4:30 p.m. Central Time, Zach Kallman will jump on and we'll discuss the Chicago Bears, Ben Johnson's hires for his coaching staff, maybe some free agent talk. And then we might even discuss it live about doing a live draft, getting on the free draft. People can hop on the chat and join, and we'll try. Me and Zach could look through players, trades, whatever, and try to see if we can't come up with the best Chicago Bears draft roster that we can. So appreciate anybody watching or listening. Leave a comment in the comment section down below as well. Like and subscribe. Like I said, it's back. We'll be back to what we were doing. Looking for guys to come on and talk ball, talk whatever. If you want to talk about faith now, that's going to be the next avenue. Let's talk about faith. Let's talk about this. Let's do it. So thank you guys for watching and or listening. This is the Coach Steve Show. Like and subscribe, and we will see you guys next time.